Hey everyone, welcome to the Hustle on Purpose podcast, where we bring you knowledge and encouragement to help you better serve your family, your business, and your community. My name is GT Ikard, and today we have a very special guest with us, Cody Dover. Cody, thank you so much for being with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Those of us that don't know much about you, just share some of your background and where you're from, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I grew up here in Little Rock, and I got in real estate just by kind of default. I was in digital marketing, trying to do affiliate marketing back in the day. And my business partner, Chris, he invited me to this real estate conference, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
Robert Kiyosaki.
That's it.
Yeah.
We went there, we got upsold into their pitch, and we bought it. And so from that moment forward, we decided to just jump all in. You know, we paid $16,000 for this course that we didn't have any money for, but they taught us how to leverage credit cards and interest-free debt. And so that got the ball rolling. Back in 2017, we bought our first 5 houses in the first 5 months. So we're like, oh man, well, if we can go buy a course and then things start to work, what else could we do? So looking back, you know, we got out and stopped doing what was working and try to chase bigger objects, the shiny object syndrome, you might hear. And so that's really what got us going is trying to find our way. After buying a course, it worked. And then it wasn't until 2019, the end of it, that we circled back. We circled back to what was already working, single family. And in 2019, we started working for a gentleman here, just kind of under his wing. And at that point in time, we learned the operation, the sales and marketing aspect. And we realized that, to get a deal, you really do have to do sales and marketing. And so 2020, that was when we jumped full time in it. And I was working at a bank. You know, I graduated college in 2016, worked at a bank until then. And then at that point in time, we'd only done like 4 deals. And this is the year of COVID. Come 2020, The first 6 months, we did 4 deals. The second 6 months, we ended up doing 54 deals.
Yeah.
So there was a big jump there. And it wasn't until looking back and reflecting to see that a lot of these deals and people they were talking to came from like 6 months ago. So that's when we realized that it takes time to follow up with people, nurture and talk with them. And it wasn't until then that we had to build a whole pipeline to rock and roll come 2021, where we did 121 deals. And so things shifted fairly quickly, and we kind of got thrown into a volume-based company by default, not meaning to. It's just things started working. We got one cold caller to the next, and then just leads kept increasing. So it was just a big jump for us. And then we started taking down properties ourselves. You know, at first we're just wholesaling. We didn't have the right contacts, the lenders in place until we started playing more of the game. And that game is just stumbling across different players and opportunities as you play the game. And so there we met contractors, lenders, and it wasn't until our first flip. We ended up doing about $40,000 on our first flip. And the only reason we did that flip was because our contractor said, hey, you guys should flip this. We're like, oh,
okay,
maybe we should.
Yeah.
You know, so,
right.
I mean, that's kind of my story, my background, where I'm at and where I'm from here, just in Little Rock, and looking to dig deep.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. The lots to unpack there that I'm really interested about. How do you handle, just as a starting point, going from 4 deals in 6 months to 54 deals in 6 months to 121 deals? Because that's exponential growth in a short amount of time. Tell us about how you had to hammer down on like people, systems, processes in order just to make sure everything's covered, all your touch points are covered and all that, because that's a lot of growth in a short amount of time.
Well, there's no kind of one way to do it. Someone said to me the other day, is like when you jump out of a plane, you find your parachute on the way down. Right. And so that's what makes it fun and thrilling, is like you don't know until you put yourself in that situation. Mm-hmm. And at every turn, there's a new situation that you have to deal and cope with, whether it's threats or opportunities or obligations that you need to fulfill. And so it's just, there's no one answer. But what we did was we noticed that we can double our productivity by having someone else go out to the properties for us. And that allowed us to stay on the sales floor to make more calls. So our main jam of bringing in deals and leads or cold calling And so we have a team of callers. In the Philippines, they just do outbound reach out to people, just looking to see who raises their hand, who's who. And from that, we're able to dissect the 30 people or so a week that come in and say, okay, I'm going to call Susan over there at 123 Main Street, and then follow up with Susan. And so there's a lot of times that you just realize as you encounter a new situation, you kind of work through it and evolve within that situation, and you can't really anticipate it going into without, being involved in it first.
Right. Yeah. People, it's super common that analysis paralysis happens, right? Like you sit there and you think about all the things that could go wrong, and it keeps you from doing the thing that you think you maybe should do. And, we all know people like that, right? Like we all have friends that are like, man, I want to get into so-and-so, but like, what if this happens? And it sounds like you're the kind of person that would be like me. It's like, dude, it probably will. Like that thing you're worried about probably will happen. Mm-hmm. But guess what? Like you'll figure it out. Like you really going to let it stop you from like pursuing it? What if it doesn't happen? What if it's great?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I'm kind of in that same spot now of analysis paralysis, just on a new level, trying to figure out my next venture, whether it's funds or new construction, whatever the case is. I think at every turn, just being a human, you're going to encounter some fear and scarcity, and that's what holds a lot of people back.
Yeah. I'll give you advice that you didn't ask for.
Okay.
So Andy Frisella has a phrase that I just absolutely love. He says aggressive patience. So there's been a lot of periods in my life where I'm not, it sounds like I'm like right where you're at, and there's a lot of options and you're not really sure which door to go through. But I'm not necessarily a patient person. I'm progress over perfection is like my mantra. I'm like, let's just be moving forward. I don't care if it's perfect, but like progress needs to be happening or I go crazy. So like, for instance, what I've been doing is the last couple of years, I've kind of been in that, what's going to be the best thing to propel my career and like help me provide for my family, my community, help people. And I haven't had a clear answer. So what I've been doing is like laying foundational blocks, like doing some things that could help doors open and maybe make that path clearer. And maybe that's kind of where you're at right now. So like I had all the credentials to get my residential builder's license for like new construction. So I went and got it because it's like a 6-month process.
That's the first building block.
Right. So it's like, well, if I know it's going to take 6 months, I don't want to wait till I need it. I can just like file all this stuff and have it so I'm ready.
Yeah.
And then that led to like, well, now I know that I've got this builder's license. Like I bought vacant lots because it's like, well, if I'm going to build something, I'll probably need some vacant lots. And then that led to, well, I've got these vacant lots and I've got my builder's permit. I'm going to need some plans. Well, the next thing you know, like I've got an architect and we've got 3 different sets of plans for duplexes. And, oh, well, now I've got plans and my license and lots to build on. I need to get bids on these. And like next thing you know, I'm in new construction.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like you can take some low risk action and see where it goes.
That's good.
Like the action of getting my license, very low risk, costs almost no money, and you don't know what kind of opportunities it's going to open. So
I'm sure you play the who's who game and not the how. Like how I'm going to do this. It's more of who do I know that can give me those plans or the license. And so, that's like kind of my analogy of going into Walmart. If you're looking for peanut butter and you've never been in there, well, it's quicker just to ask the Walmart associate, hey, where's the peanut butter? And it's on aisle 6.
Yeah.
So that's really the who's who has been a big help. And I think that's what you did there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it was interesting because it's the first time I've hired an architect for anything. So I was in architecture school for 2 years and ended up going like a different direction. But it was funny that like I had come like full circle for me. I was like, oh, like you can just pay architects. Like you don't have to be one, you know? Not that if you want to be an architect, you shouldn't go do that, but it was an interesting moment for me. So, you mentioned I wanted to talk a little bit about your buy and hold stuff. So you transitioned some wholesaling into like, well, we've got this structure for like getting deals. And now you've built connections and your knowledge and all of that to structure keeping some of those for yourself and then also flipping some. So that's kind of like we were talking about, like the building blocks. It's like you set a foundation with wholesaling. From there, opportunities came. And so tell me a little bit about how that works. You like have some deals come in. How do you kind of make decisions on which direction to go with a property and all that?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I mean, you look at the exit strategy first, like how many ways can I get out of this deal? And I don't want to be caught holding the bag. And so if I can get out through a refinance or a sale or just a rental that makes sense and cash flows, well, then that's 3 different ways of getting out of the deal. And so the houses that we pick, so since we do a lot of off-market marketing, we get the luxury of cherry picking deals. So we get to cherry pick the ones that we want to flip or the ones to keep. And the flip, I mean, if we can at least make $30,000, then we'll go ahead and flip it. If not, then we'll keep it as a rental. And so we kind of have that power to decide based on the area, the location, the rent rate, and really it depends on those few variables, and it's not hard to come up with once you kind of get into it to see.
Yeah. So your buy and hold stuff, are y'all managing that yourselves?
Well, we did until we got to like 25 units. We only have about 30 right now, but we've outsourced that. We realized that the money is in the deal, not the managing of the deal.
Right. Yeah.
So
I agree 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You said only 30. Like that's awesome. Like that's killing it. How old are you?
28.
Yeah. That's killing it.
Yeah, I guess, you make a good point. I've never really given myself the credit. And when I say only 30, it's like, I realize that you really have to have a good amount to even see anything.
Right.
But I think what I'm looking for is more down the road, the future when the equity's built up. There's no mortgage, there's no debt. And at that time, then we can retalk.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people all the time is like, people get a real misconception about being a landlord. And everyone thinks you're Scrooge McDuck diving into your pool of gold coins, right? And it's like, it takes an incredible amount of rental units to even be able to consider doing it like full time. Mm-hmm. Like if that was all you had and you weren't doing the wholesaling and the flipping and all of that, like I don't know anything about your numbers, but like you and your partner wouldn't be able to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe, but like not well.
Yeah.
But y'all, when you're 50, it's playing the long game, which I think is super smart. I'll tell you this just because it's interesting. Y'all started very different than I did. Y'all started with wholesaling and like the lead generation side of things. And like, I used to view that as like short-sighted.
Okay.
Because it kind of is in a way.
Yeah.
It's like
one and done.
Right. You get quick money and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like more interested in the long-term play, long-term buy and hold rental stuff. But as I got more into it, and as I've seen I'm a fan from a distance of you and Chris, and we've done some deals together, a few. As I've seen y'all go from kind of mastering that lead generation, follow up, all that wholesaling side, I realized I was late to the game. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Y'all built the foundation in kind of a different pillar of it. But now y'all are in a place where you get to pick and choose. Like you said, you get to cherry pick the deals you want. You've got a funnel and you can move those deals to whatever side of the business that you want. And I'm like, man, that's really smart. I used to see it as short-sighted, and now I'm like, I get it. Like I was the short-sighted one. So it's cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of grunt work. And so it may just not be for you though. You might have other intentions and aspirations.
Yeah, I mainly just wanted to say, like, it's cool to see. Like, I'm a fan, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, what y'all have been doing. So basically what I heard from you on the buy and hold side is, and with all of it probably, is just like, start with the end in mind. Know your exit strategy going in before you commit to one way or the other. When you've got the added benefit of, if you shop it around for a little bit to see if a wholesale deal is going to flip in an instant, and it doesn't, buy and hold can be kind of a backup plan.
Yeah, that's it. We just did one where we were planning on taking down, and we ended up buying it, but we realized that we could go ahead and turn over 20,000 just to resell it to another investor, versus maybe 45 in 4 months.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it makes total sense. Wanted to ask you a little bit about your feelings on how the market's been the last couple of years. Crazy, obviously. And then if you would talk a little bit about like where you think it's going in the near future and how you think it's going to affect your business and other people's.
Yeah. Well, I think, back in the day, interest rates were over 10% and people still made it work. There's different ways to monetize a deal regardless of interest rates. Now, that does slow down productivity. And so for us, we're staying in that product of a first-time home buyer. So our resale, our home is no more than $150,000. A lot of them are around $120,000. And so by staying in one niche and one category, those properties still cash flow. They still make sense on the rental side if we can't sell it to a first-time home buyer. Where the market's headed, I'm not sure if I'm the one to be talking on that, but
yeah, just your thoughts.
My thoughts is, it's going to stay steady the course with interest rates. I don't think it's going to be too volatile.
Yeah.
And there's going to be just new ways to go about doing real estate, maybe creative financing. And that's one that we've been doing here lately is just talking sellers into, hey, we don't work with sellers or most of the time we work with sellers who don't need all the money up front, but the most net out of the
and want
sale.
to avoid the tax.
So when you can frame it that way to a seller, you can pivot and get into a deal with no money down or no interest.
Or take over their very low interest payments from when they got their mortgage a year ago.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, a seller is selling because of a concern or a situation they're in. And if you can alleviate that concern or situation, money doesn't become relevant at that point.
Right. Yeah. I agree with all that. All of my rentals are affordable. And it's kind of that starting with the end in mind. It's about as safe as an asset class as you can get, because it's hard to go lower than the bottom, right? Like somebody always needs a house for $900 a month, always. So I agree with you on that. And on the flip side, I was doing some flips when you could sell a cardboard box for $300,000. And even when I was doing that, I didn't want to be stuck holding the bag, like you said earlier. So even all of my flips, I kept like below $300,000 purchase price, and I told myself when interest rates started to go up, I was going to get out of the flips because it was like, it's going to be weird and scary.
Yeah. We thought we were getting out of the flips, but we still get those deals that make sense. It's just the same model, 3-bed, 1-bath, $20,000, $30,000 worth of work.
Right. Well, you're seeing so many deals that like some of them are like, we have to do this. The deal kind of pushes your hand. So yeah, it'll be, the other thing, speaking about the market, what I always tell people is, even when interest rates were low and now that they're continuing to increase, everyone that I know wants to talk to me about it, which is fine. I'm happy to talk about it. But what I tell people is two things. One part of it is always hard. Whether it's the financing, whether it's finding the deal, whether it's closing the deal, like some part of it's always hard. Interest rates are low. Competition and demand is high. Interest rates are high. Inventory's low. There's other struggles that come along with that. But I've been telling a lot of people right now is an incredible time to buy a house. And I feel like nobody's listening to me. Because it's like, as your first time home buyer, like you're selling flips, are you more likely as the seller of a flip now to entertain an offer where the buyer is asking for you to pay closing costs
Right.
than you were a year ago?
Well, I think that a year ago or so, FHA buyers were pushed out. They were pushed out of the market by investors and people paying cash.
Yeah.
And so here's their chance
Right.
to shine. And so that's probably the best time for them to come back in.
There was so many people. I used to tell people, anybody that asked me how to find a house for less than $100,000, I told them, you're probably not going to, because you can't compete at that price point.
Yeah.
I can go show you $90,000 houses till the cows come home. Somebody's already bought it with cash by the time you see it. That's just the state of the market we were in.
Yeah.
But now it's a little different. Like you might have a shot. I'm sure from your wholesaling side, tell me a little bit about what you've seen from the investor side of your wholesaling business. Have you seen investors pulling back from buying stuff? And I know just from knowing some of the people in these businesses, but several of the hedge funds, out-of-state hedge funds and stuff that buy in Little Rock have big pullbacks, and even some just like going away. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen on that side of things.
Yeah, I've got two sides to tell, both the seller and the investor or the buyer. The investors are pulling back, but they're also being more cautious. So they're being a lot more. They don't want a large rehab. A lot of people are staying away from bigger rehabs, but I think the seller side is more important, because what's happening there is their expectations are still stuck 6 months ago of getting over asking on their home. And a perfect example was we just bought a house that was on the market for 150. We bought it for 70.
Right. How many days on the market do you know?
29 maybe. And so that just goes to show that whoever that realtor was or whoever she was working with, they just shot up the expectation there of what they could get.
Right.
And so that's what I'm battling with, just as an investor, wholesaler, or a buyer. It's just wrestling with sellers' expectations.
Yeah. You put it perfectly. Same. The expectations have like a lag time behind what's actually happening. Normally, historically, real estate pretty steady. And it's like the last 2 years is like, what's happening? And I feel that way, and I'm in the business every day. So I do have to remind myself to try and show some people some grace when they just have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. Well, the first thing to do is to not make them wrong. If I'm trying to get the deal, I want to be there of service and kind of be the tour guide for their story and to walk them through. And that's where the follow-up comes into play. Now, I see a lot of time new investors, wholesalers, they try to go for that strike on the first conversation. And dealing with wholesale, it's a sales and marketing company. Yeah. We realize that it takes 5 to 12 tries and that's follow-up. And so if you want to keep that relationship open, we're going to be there and support them all along the way.
Yeah, I like that. I have told people before, just to let you know, because I've dealt with more than my fair share of wholesalers, and you don't know this, but I've bragged on y'all quite a bit for a few reasons. All of my experience with you guys has been great. B, y'all are local. So I don't feel as bad paying a wholesaler assignment fee when like the money stays here. You know what I mean? Because I've had wholesalers that are just in North Carolina and Georgia and Texas, and they've never even been here. They deserve the money they're getting paid, but it just makes me feel better when it's here local. And the last point is, I feel like y'all do it the right way. I've never had a seller from y'all's side come back later and like say anything crazy. Like, for example, I literally I have changed the way I write my contracts and do my wholesale deals off of one that it was a package of like 5 houses I bought from a wholesaler. Never had contact with the actual seller. I get a call from my property management company. We bought them tenant occupied, just the people signed new leases with my management company, and we just kept rolling, kept everybody in place. It was great. I get a call from the management company one day, and it's like 2 of the tenants are calling, freaking out because the previous owner, this is like 3 months later, is now saying that the stoves belong to her. And she's trying to like go in the house and take the stoves. And just like, what?
Yeah, like, you can add that to your book there if you ever write one.
Right. Yeah. So now it's like, it's just one of those things that I felt like, and then the wholesaler was gone, basically, like disappeared into the wherever they're from. They're done with the deal, right? They don't care. And it's just like situations like that. I feel like y'all do it the right way. I've also been on the other side of wholesalers making me part of their like ruse, right? Like you have a lot of wholesalers that aren't transparent with their dealings with the sellers, which I get. That's kind of like the easier way, right? But then don't make me part of like your lies. Like if I have to go see the house, I'm not going to lie to that person about why I'm there. Like I'm not just going to come out and tell them. But if like they ask me what I'm doing there, I'm going to like tell them. I'm not going to tell them I'm a bug guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I'm not.
It's funny you say, and thank you for the credit. Actually yesterday I got a call. We're marketing a house for rent, and the prospective tenant said, well, this seems way too easy. I think it's a scam. And I'm like, well, I'm going to take that as a compliment, because that's what we strive to do, is make things easy when it doesn't have to be hard. And that just goes to show just the level of service that we aim to provide, is because we have different customers. We have you as a buyer, and we have a seller to take care of. Right. And the more we can take care of people, the more and longer we can stay in business, but also help people at the same time.
What would you say is the most impactful way you've been able to help people?
Just getting them out of the situation. I mean, that's really what help and an offer is. And an offer is a way of transacting for help. And so the most impactful way is just sellers who need help moving stuff out. We can refer them to people that we know, resources. We can close on their timeline and have the money in when they need it. And it's more of like a relief to them knowing that they're taken care of. And that's the kind of the satisfaction, fulfillment that we get just by helping other people move on with their life and take care of their problems.
Yeah, you're covering like a broad spectrum of helping people. It's like on one end of things, somebody's got a problematic piece of real estate, and you can help them get rid of that, solve that problem in any number of ways, right? Then you've also got people like me that is like, I need to be buying properties for my business to grow and sustain itself and keep going. You've got buy and holds that you rent out to people. You can give people a quality place to live. So,
and also too, everyone involved in the transaction, title company, insurance,
yeah, right,
contractors.
There's this whole little ecosystem.
It's a big turn for everyone. And,
yeah.
And if everyone can win, then we're all just galloping along.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I wanted to ask you is there one crazy story that sticks out in your mind? Like, one crazy, you don't have to name names, one crazy seller, one crazy house, one crazy buyer.
There's a lot of crazies in real estate.
Yeah.
You'll come across many stories.
Uh-huh.
I would say the most recent one is just, we just flipped a house, and it's all new on the inside. Uh-huh. And the buyer came through and flipped out and said that this house should be condemned. And so we're like, well, what's going on? He proceeded to then find us on Facebook and commented, and just a whole lot of unnecessary things. But it also turned out for the better, because when we did go down there, we got to see that, we weren't checking our projects like we should. And so it really shined a light on us. So because of this guy's reaction and just the hustle and bustle, we were able to kind of shine a light on our process and see kind of where we're maybe falling short. I don't know if that's a pretty good example, though. I'm sure I have crazier ones than that. Just walking into a house with squatters.
Oh, yeah.
That's a scary thing when you have,
it is.
when they're shooting up and there's a whole team of them, and you have nothing but yourself. And so,
Yeah. I got my concealed carry license because of that, basically. The company I used to work for asked me to do a rental showing for a recently completed rehab that they were going to rent out. And lady called, she wanted to meet at she could only meet at 7:30 at night. I show up, the house has no power yet. It's not even, that's what it was. It wasn't a finished house. We had just bought it. And I was like, well, I can show it to you, but it's we have $60,000 worth of work. It's going to be a completely different house by the time it's ready. Oh, I want to see it, whatever. And I was brand new and dumb. I show up and it's in the hood, and she gets out of her car, which is all fine, followed by two of some of the largest men I've ever seen.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And luckily, everything was fine, but I was like, okay,
you have all this stuff going through your head.
Well, yeah, you go through all your realtor training, nobody behind me, everybody go ahead. And anyways, I was like, nope, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
I had one, so I'll share a crazy story.
Yeah.
So I went to go see a house, and it was a wholesale deal, and it's been vacant and abandoned for a long time. And also, which is common, somebody else showed up. I didn't know who he was, but it was another guy looking at the house, and I was like, hey man, how's it going? Whatever. And we kind of went our separate ways. I went ahead and went inside to get my pictures and look at everything, and he went on the outside. I make it to the back of the house and to the master bedroom, and it's full of it's knee high full of trash, right? Push trash out of the way with the door, get into the master bedroom. The whole thing is carpeted. Walls, ceilings, floors, green shag carpet everywhere. And it also has a nice skylight where a limb has fallen through the roof, and it's just water's been coming into the room, and it's just nasty, smells awful. And I see a squirrel, and it's squirrel heaven, because he can just cling to this carpet and run around like crazy, right? So he's having the best time. And I'm watching him. He's just running around the walls. I'm like, okay, Mr. Squirrel, you stay over there. And I walk in to go to the master bathroom to get a picture. And as I'm pushing stuff out of the way I was literally just trying to reach my phone in to get a picture of this master bathroom. There's another squirrel in the bathroom, and he comes out angry that I was pushing this door. Before I ever saw him, he's on my leg, and he starts climbing me like a tree, and I freaked out. I'm not proud of how I reacted, because it was embarrassing. Next thing I know, I'm swatting at this thing. I'm swearing up and down, and I'm doing high knees through this trash as I'm sprinting out of this house. The other guy is inside at this point, and I almost knock him over as I'm just swearing and running. Man. And he ends up running right behind me, and we get outside, and he's like, what happened? I'm like, there's a squirrel. He was on me. And
so I guess he didn't want to go in after that.
Yeah, he was like, I don't think I'm going to go in there. I was like, dude, I'll send you the pictures. Here they are. Just airdrop them to him. He was like, nice. Whenever I saw you running, I thought it was serious. I was like, it was serious. I was freaking out.
Yeah. You never know. I don't like walking into vacant homes, because you don't know what you're going to find. I'm always kind of doing the James Bond kind of movement around each corner to peek.
It's why I started wearing boots. Now I wear boots every day. It's even in the summer I wear boots and jeans, just because you never know what day you're going to be walking into God knows what. Anyways, I didn't mean to take over the conversation with that story, but I had forgotten about that. I got a text later that day from like 3 different people that were like, "Hey, did you happen to be at 123 Main Street earlier today?"
Someone told me some guy come running out.
Right. The guy that was there had gone and told everybody that this like big guy with a red beard like ran screaming from a squirrel.
Yeah.
Like next thing I knew is like everybody knew about it. I was like, I'm not proud of it.
Yeah.
But I survived. I'm a survivor.
I guess you didn't buy the house.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't even think I offered on it. I was just like, nope.
Yeah.
Who knows what's under that carpet? You know? I feel like if you put carpet on the walls, you're hiding something. Mm-hmm. Just as a general rule. Anyways, I had one last question for you. So if you could give yourself, if you could travel back in time and give yourself some advice, let's say like right after you had graduated, like before you started your like real estate journey, what would be the advice you'd give yourself?
Well, new advice would be, network is a really big thing. That's how you accumulate power, different forms of power. And that's not like power, force power, but just putting yourself in situations and showing up. Because like you said, building the foundation one step at a time, you don't have to know everything all up front. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about business is you just need to know who and then to figure out the how. So the advice would be is just to don't get so caught up in figuring out the perfect formula. Just get the minimal viable product out there and go for it.
Yes. Yeah. That's great. I wish that was advice I had heard, or if I did hear it, that I had actually listened to it.
But here's the crazy thing, though. I can go tell you what to go do, but something's going to get in your way, and most time it's going to be you. And so that's where the training comes in. So we have a coach that trains over the mental, brain, conscious, unconscious mind and wiring from ages 0 to 19. And so like if you're to put that to athlete terms, if like you're in the 9th inning, it's 2 outs, 2 men on, and you're down by 3 and you can hit a home run to win the game, it's being super conscious and aware in that moment to show up and be awake. And so it don't matter. Like a lot of people kick around and listen to different podcasts and read journals or whatever, blog posts. And that was me. And it wasn't until we got this coach that kind of unblocks all the things that you as a human will kind of put your own self in your own way of harm and kind of stop the momentum.
Yeah, I need to talk to this coach probably.
Coach Karen.
Yeah. Coach Aaron?
Karen. Coach
okay.
K. Yeah.
Not like the real Coach K.
It's the other Coach K.
Other Coach K.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. Well, and I changed my mind. So last thing, was there anything we need to let the people know how to reach out to you? If they've got something they've got a problematic piece of real estate or something like that, how do people find you? I
would say the best way is social media right now. I don't really have I'm not selling anything. I don't have an offer to present to anyone. I just want to help.
Yeah.
I've been helped before. And so I realized that, I want to pass that torch, but also I might want to partner with people with JV. And whatever the case is, I like to learn from different people. And you can find me on social media. You can put the links there in the notes, but just my first and last name, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. So reach out. Let me know you came from this podcast because I do want to help see what I can maybe reinvigorate your path. And
yeah.
So
thanks, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cody Dover, for coming out today and sharing with us. And thank you all for listening. We hope this helped you be more equipped to go out there and crush it. Be sure to go check us out on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, etc. And remember, guys, hustle on purpose.